Hi, I'm Paul Sherratt.
I'm Martin Brennan.
And this is the Goalkeeping Podcast. So listen, I've had a busy week at work. Real busy week. I had a whole day, great day, out of the office, strategy day, putting together our business plan for the next 5 years. And it got me thinking, because in there are short-term goals.
Yeah.
And of course there are long-term goals. And I'm thinking, I guess in goalkeeping coaching, you have the same things, or am I guessing wrong?
Yeah, I think the in coaching there's definitely long-term, short-term goals, and I class this a lot as being reactive, either reacting or responding, and I class them very, very similar. I'll get to that in a minute, but with the long-term, for example, I've witnessed this so many times. A goalie will make a mistake from a cross on a Saturday, and normally on the Monday, the coach has got something planned out. But what they're going to do is, because they made a mistake, they're now, for a short-term goal, they're going to work on crossing on Monday. Yeah. And it's like, well, everyone's going to make mistakes anyway, and you're going to make different various mistakes. So if you've got a long-term goal and a long-term target, and it's planned out properly, you should be covering all aspects of the game anyway, rather than going, we made a mistake Saturday, we've got to work on that Monday morning. Well, for me, it's a short-term goal. It's a short-term fix. I class it as it's a drive-through, Come on, we need something to eat quick, let's just go for a drive-through. Yeah. But really, it's not really the most effective decision, is it?
But do you, we'll end up with a written down plan. Yeah. This is what we want to get to. Mm. Do you do that with your keepers? Do you have a written down? So these are the top line, whatever they are. I don't know what they would be, because it's, I don't know, playing for the first team, playing for, I don't know, what's that long term something, and then we'll have the short term goals, the signpost, the pathway to hit that long term. The long term.
So every pro club I've been at, I've asked every goalkeeper I've worked with to do a 3-year plan. So they go home and they come up with a 3-year plan.
And what does that look like? What's in that 3-year plan?
It's very mixed between the personalities and the characters.
Do you give them a structure, or is it literally, hey, go away and give me tell me where you want to be in 3 years?
All I do to them is say, you've got a couple of days on this. You need to show me what 3 years looks like. And what I say is, it doesn't have to be just football related. It can also have your outside of football work on there as well. However that looks.
Okay.
So some of the ones come back. I won't name who they are. I've had one come back where it's been done on a computer. It's been printed out. It's got a logo on the top. You're like, this is unbelievable.
Beautiful plan. Yeah.
To one where I've come with basically a bit of fag paper come back, and it's got like year 1, it just says first team. Year 2, it just says first team. And you can guess what year 3 says.
Okay.
So I'm like, that's fine. So,
in your experience, which out of those two goalkeepers, one that has first team, and one that has it doesn't matter whether it's nicely printed, but let's call it a more formal plan.
Yeah.
Which is going to be the most successful?
Which is or has been? Because I'll be honest, they've both been successful. Both of them.
Okay.
Yeah. One's played...
So it doesn't matter then?
One's played Premier League, and both of them have played Championship. So you'd class that as being extremely successful. What it does, though, it helps me help them. So, for example, on one of them in the first year, say they're 17, say they're 16, they've just come into the first team, the full-time environment. So year 1 might say, I want to play for, they want to go out on loan and play a couple of games, for example. So you're going, right, what do we do? Like you said at the beginning, what do we do to get you closer to that? Yeah. One might say, I want to train with the first team. Yeah. So I'll give you an example. One of the boys have put, he wants to train more often with the reserves. He wants to make a couple of appearances on the reserves, on the reserve bench. He wants to make an appearance in the reserves, and he wants to play as many under 18 games as he can. Yeah. And the last one for him was injury free. How I remember that is beyond me. I have no idea. It was like 10 years ago.
Interesting, yeah.
5 of them he had. So I'm like, right, so you want to train. So a simple one for me is to get closer to training with the first team. Is for us to come up with a plan that's structured on a daily basis. How does that look? So are you at your fittest? Well, not really. Right. So straight away, we can look at food intake. We can look at, fluid intake. So that's the first thing. Really, really simple. Then we can look at training programs. The longer term ones, like I want to get to by year 3, I want to be in the first team at this football club. Perfect. This is brilliant for me. The minute they say that's great. So I'm going, right. How do we get closer?
Yeah.
We're playing under 18s. Well, that's not going to really get us too close, is it? So the long term is, can we go and get, and I'd also spoke to the managers about this as well. I'm going, just without the player, just out of interest, when would you consider playing a goalie of a young age? When would you consider that? When they've got experience. Perfect. So you need to allow me to get the goalies out to play games and loan.
Yeah.
So then we can get them closer to you, which will save you, by the way, a fortune. Because if you're bringing a youth team up, it's a lot
Absolutely.
cheaper than paying $100,000 or whatever it is to bring someone in. So the plan looks like this. Year 1, can we go and get, and I'm throwing examples of that, 30 appearances at the 5th league? And then year 2, can we go and get, 30 appearances at, the 4th league and so on. The reason I like to do the long-term targets for their social side as well is that if they feel they're coming off pathway a little bit for the playing, I always think it's nice to be able to focus on something else alongside it.
Yeah.
So we have two train tracks. One train track is to getting closer to your dream in playing, and one train track is getting closer to you in being happy in your social environment.
That's really good.
So
really
if
good.
one is veering off, why is that one veering off? The playing one might be veering off track because the social one's completely fallen apart. So if we can bring that one back, and it might be talking that the kids are young. We're talking about young men here, so it might be that they've got a newborn baby.
Yeah.
You need to work out a better sleep pattern for match days. It might be they've had a breakup with a miss, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But we try and get them back on track and keep both of them going at the same point. But yeah, the short-term goals are, they're more your daily things, but can they, and I've said this before, can they be measurable? I struggle with, I see you've got 2 types of people. You've got doers and talkers. And the talkers, I've met millions of them. I've got, that's the idea, we're going to make millions and trillions and billions. Great. What's your first step? Well, I don't know. What do we do now? Surely you've thought about that idea and you've gone, right, step 1 might be that we've even hired a room to start planning and talking. That might just be step 1.
Yeah.
But they can't get to even step 1. So and I class yourself as a massive doer. And I'm learning this daily with yourself that, right, we've got this idea and I've booked this already and I've already put this in place and look at your emails because it's already done and I've sent it to you. And you're like, wow, give me a minute. But It's not, is it? It's a long-term target. It's planning out.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. And I think it's interesting how you do it to how we would necessarily do it. So, and maybe it's the same process. So we'll have some clear long-term goals.
Yeah.
Probably revenue driven because that's the nature of the business. But alongside that, there are some clear goals that might be product development related, product related. There might be channel related. There might be customer related. Everything around that in 5 years' time, we want to be X. Yeah. So we'll have those, a bit exactly like the keeper says, I want to be playing first division. We might say we want to be in customer X, we want to be doing X, Y, Z. The interesting bit for me is, okay, how do we get from where we are today to achieve that goal?
Yeah.
What do we need to do? So I'm thinking, so I don't know, if we need to get into customer X is a good example because I think we can draw the analogy to goalkeeping.
Yeah.
If we need to get into customer X, customer X only buys certain products. So we need to make sure that we've got the products that are right for customer X as one pathway along hitting revenues. So I guess from a goalkeeping perspective, I want to be a first team goalkeeper. I guess your task is to help that keeper by saying, okay, what does a Premier League team look for?
Yeah.
So I know what my customer looks for. He looks for certain products, maybe at certain terms and certain other things. You want to be a Premier League goalkeeper? He wants to play first team football. Okay. He wants to play first team football. How does that look for a goalkeeper? Is it certain technique that you need? Is it or attitude or well, actually the gaffer's looking for someone who's 6'3", can leap, whatever. What is it?
I think it's just working on as many aspects of your game as possible. So let's just say the first team manager wants, he kind of wants a Messi playing in the goal with gloves on. He wants to be able to play out. He wants to be able to, clip balls over centre halves. He wants to be able to do everything with his feet. That's great. But then we've got to improve that, he's weaker foot.
Yeah.
Naturally. Because otherwise all that's going to happen is, if you stand in the middle of the pitch and I'm left-footed, everything to the right is really easy for me because I'm left-footed. Anything to the left, I've got to run around the ball a little bit more, So the higher up we go, you're not going to have time to run around the ball. You just got to look at it and go, I'll have to do it with my right foot. So I think, the weaknesses will have to, you're just trying to upgrade all the weaknesses as well as strengthen the strengths. But the consistency for me is going to be the massive part, and trying to get that consistency, raise that consistency. How do you get consistency? For me, it's kind of working on a little bit of repetition work, which I'm not a massive lover of. I don't believe in, if you keep catching 100 balls a day, you'll catch 100 balls every day. I'm not a massive believer of that. But it's just working. It's working on a regular basis, but having a plan in place and making sure the plan doesn't dramatically change because one thing has happened in the game that's going to now completely throw off your 3-month plan, or something's happened in the last 2 games. Well, he now can't play out. He now can't play out with his feet. Okay, he's kicked 2 balls off the pitch. That doesn't mean he now can't play out with his feet. On that pathway of that, the social element of it, is there something outside the game that might need addressing to bring him back on pathway? So the short term, so that's a great short term. Everything all right home? Yeah, it's all right. Fine, I might not be that person to speak to him. He might be closer with one of the players who I'm quite close with. Yeah. So he then might do us a favour, have a chat with him, see what he's saying. What did he say? Oh, he split up with his missus. Oh, I didn't realise. Right, okay. So if people are shouting at him, he might feel a bit funny about it. But so that for me was more of a short term goal. But looking at it as a long term goal, could you fix in, a once a month social event with the goalies outside the football club, which would generally whether I'm saying bowling, they're going to laugh right off. But say it is bowling, for example,
classic Tenpin Bowl. I mean, everybody loves a bit of that, surely.
And the rule is you're not allowed to talk about football.
Yeah.
You might find stuff out that will help you with that long-term goal. But if it's planned and structured in for a long-term goal, is in terms of planning out once a month, we're going to do a social event together. That's going to help. It's going to help achieve the goals, isn't it? The long ones.
Yeah, I mean, I think we have the mantras consistency and persistency.
Yeah.
So if you've got your short-term goals to hit the long-term goal, and they're clearly defined, you've got to consistently make sure that you are addressing those shortfalls. Yeah. But you have to be persistent in doing that, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
We have a built-in review process. It's monthly management accounts.
Yeah.
So from a financial point of view, from a revenue point of view, we can sit down and see on our revenue train track whether we're on track.
Yeah.
We probably have another train track as well, or several other train tracks which might be related to as some of the other elements I talked about, product or marketing, whatever it is. What's your review process?
For me, you're probably going to do this every 3rd month. So if for example, let's take being the first in goalies at Wycombe, for example, we've got 3 goalies on loan at one point. So we're gonna we're going to look every third month. I'm going to start looking a lot more in detail of how the games look. So yes, we're going to do it every week. We're going to look over the game every week. So there's more of a short-term goal. But let's see where you're at within that, that every third month period. Have you, there's goalies well put on consistent weight every year at a certain period of time of the year. Christmas starts to come. There's going to be more family events. So the next year, can we go, right, can we set you a target of staying under that weight, to keep you consistently going throughout the year instead of, blowing up a little bit around November, December time and then having to work harder in January, which is making you more tired, which is then making you more tired in games, which is why you're not kicking the ball as far. It all has a roll-on effect. So for me, working at the pro clubs was a matter of the 3 months, where are we actually at? I always think 3 months is a really nice point of going, right, where are we at on the pitch? Where are we at off the pitch? How far are we from our goals? If we're not near that, whatever it is, 12, 15 mark, trying to hit 15 games, for example, in 3 months, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Why are we not near that? Well, I was injured. What's the injury? Was it a broken leg? Fine, we can't control it. Was it a pulled hamstring? Well, if it's a pulled hamstring, we can affect that 100%. You're not warming up properly if you're not doing enough pre-activation, which then again goes back to the short-term goals, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like you said about being consistent and the repetition work. So, yeah, people see goals, short-term and long-term goals, very, very differently. Mine, I love looking at the long-term goals and then going, right, let's thrash out now how it's going to look short-term. Because that's great. You want to play first.
But I think that's the entrepreneur. I love that as well. That whole process of where could we be? Where could we be? Where do we want to be?
Yeah.
I'm with you. I just love that. I love that process. And you're saying, short-term and long-term goals, they are similar in terms of there's that classic business goal setting. Yeah. So they've got to be smart. So smart S, specific. They have to be specific as goals. There can't be some nebulous, I don't know, we want to be some broad brush. I just want to be a good goalkeeper. That's not a goal.
No.
It needs to be specific. Okay, well, I want to be the number one goalkeeper for whatever. I want to be the number one goalkeeping brand, whatever it is. Got to be specific. They've got to be measurable. Absolutely fundamental, isn't it?
Well, the most typical one when we run the camps is, and you're doing with especially the junior ones, where do you want to be in a year's time? The answer automatically is academy. So not an academy, but an academy, right? So fine. What are you doing to get there? Well, I'm training once a week on a Friday night. Perfect. What else could you do? Could you be doing more? Yeah. What could you be doing then? Well, and you're drawing the answer out himself.
Yeah.
What's your sort of dinner like? Well, I'm not at McDonald's. So what could you do better than that? Having that. And it's guiding them down the pathway you want them to go down. But before you know it, they're actually starting to plan out short-term goals on their own without realising to get closer to the long-term goal. But that is the most common one. Where do you want to be in the year-term? An academy. I'm assuming you're working. It's so easy for me on the classroom sessions with these. Oh, I'm assuming, most nights you're working on your weaker foot. Oh, no, don't do that. Oh, I assume you're drinking, enough water every day. Oh, no, I'm not doing that. Mm-hmm. So your goal every year is getting further away because you're not doing anything to get closer to it.
And I think that relates, if you look at that smart, that's S for specific, we said, M for measurable, A and R, achievable and realistic.
Yeah.
And again, that's that, I want to play for England. Mm. Okay, is it achievable and realistic? Mm. Which maybe is a difficult conversation to have with a young keeper.
Yeah.
But I think you've still got to set those guidelines because if you're never going to hit the goal, there's no point in setting the goal, in having the plan.
No, of course it's not. No. But it's talking about the younger ones. With the older ones as well, I think, and this is more for a football term, and I've probably more for a mindset, that I see the social targets just as important as the football targets. I find that fascinating,
yeah.
Because I've got a goalie I worked with a couple of months back that couldn't understand for the life of him why we were doing social targets. I want to be in League One in 2 years. Great. So we'll find out a structure and a pathway to that. What are you doing outside of that? Well, it's not important. No, it's really important. Doesn't go out, doesn't go anywhere, doesn't do a thing. So his whole focus is on getting to the next level. But for me, if your focus is just purely just on that, I think you put so much pressure on yourself that I think you just set yourself up to fail.
Yeah.
You know, people say how unbelievably work ethic Ronaldo is. I can imagine it is. I can imagine at times he goes, I'm going to lock the gym, I'm going to spend time with my kids because it makes me feel good about myself. They all assume it's like he's on a running machine for 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
No, he's not. You know, he works so hard, but he makes sure he's got other pleasures. And the other pleasure might be kicking the ball around, but it's in the garden with his boy. You know, it's focused on his boy. So the social ones for me are...
I think that's a great... Yeah, no, I like that. And I guess that's final element of SMART is the T, which is timed.
Yes.
So it's all well and good having, we're talking about short-term and long-term goals, but there needs to be a time frame.
Yes.
It's no good saying it's just a long-term goal.
Yeah.
And again, that's business as a goalkeeper. What is that? Is it in five? What's your definition of a long term? Is it 5 years, 10 years? Is it 55 years?
Yeah.
So I think that has to be part and parcel. We're working on a 5-year plan. Where do you? What sort of timescales do you work on? You're saying 3 years, are you? Is
with the young ones? So, for example, the junior camps will always in the classroom will always work on a year, but it will be 3 months they have to fill out, 6 months, and then a year. So where they see themselves and they'd like to be in a year, and then they're asked to do 3 months, 6 months. With the older goalies, I strongly feel a 3-year plan is a really nice place to be. So it's far enough that I think 5 years and 6 years with playing, there's so much that can happen in between that period. And people might say, well, 3 years is a long time. It is, but if you're getting year 1 really good and effective, and you're getting year 2 kind of similar to that, I think year 3, you give yourself a massive opportunity. So, for example, it's the 17-year-old that's playing at Wickham, for example. In that 2 years, he could go and get 80 appearances at 2 leagues below her. Well, now I'm presenting in the 3rd year to the manager and going, right, we've got 1, 2, and 3 goalies. This is a senior goalie, 36. This goalie's played 80 games. What do you mean he's at 19? He's played 80 games. Yeah, that's what he's done in the last 2 years. I think it's reachable. I think it is reachable. So, but yeah, I would always work with the older ones, definitely, at 3 years. So.
Okay. The other thing that I've learned, which I think is also relevant for keepers, is if you're going to set some goals, targets, write them down. Because if you write them down, stick them on the back of your fridge, your bedroom door, back of a notebook, in your phone notes, doesn't matter. Yeah. But if you write them down and review them regularly, and of course it's particularly, you can do that if they're on the back of your bedroom door, for example, because you can see them every day. Yeah. It ensures that you keep those goals at the forefront of your mind. Because it's a very easy exercise to go, Martin's asked me to do a 3 year. I'm going to do this 3-year plan. I'll sit down, I'm going to talk. I'm not really into it. I'm going to talking through it, and then it's in the bottom drawer, and it's not. You're never going to achieve your goals if you do that.
Do you know? I think I might have said this on the podcast already. The famous envelopes. I love getting goalies to do envelopes, and I do this myself. So you've set a plan out, and you've been given envelopes, right? Yeah. They're open envelopes. And what you do every time you invest that little bit of time in that topic, so it might be crossing, for example. You do an hour a week crossing. Just say you write down an hour and put that in the crossing envelope. At the end of the month or the 3 months, this is the best part. As you turn it up, you'll either see nothing drop out, and you'll be disappointed, or you'll see loads drop out.
That's really good.
Yeah. It's the gambler, isn't it? The minute he owns it up, look at all this I've won today. Yeah. Or, oh my God, I've won nothing at all. I love that feeling of them, of it actually dropping onto the floor, you know?
Because that's the immeasurable bit. That's the equivalent of,
that's it.
This is what I've achieved.
Yeah.
And that's that. You know, that's it, isn't it? That I've achieved all of this, and that's done in a very visual way, and we're very visual. I mean, that whole visualization thing, I think, is equally as important.
Yeah.
I don't know how that plays out in goalkeeping. I see it in business, and it might be that a businessman has a particular desire to build a business and make some money and buy a yacht.
Yeah.
Probably he's got a photo of said yacht somewhere that he looks at every day and says, one day, I'm going to be on that, drinking a gin and tonic. I don't know whether it works in goalkeeping, and it probably does, because it's probably a photo of, I don't know, a Premier League goalkeeper.
Yeah.
I want to be
a
Hugo Lloris, and there he is, and he's on my wall, because that's the keeper I want to be, or whoever it is. So I think that's a real subtle thing, but also, in my opinion, can be completely part and parcel of the whole goal setting, visualization. Where do I want to be? Who do I want to be? What do I want to achieve?
But plan it out and structure it, and make sure that you're working on stuff that you don't enjoy working on, because we're famous for that.
Yeah.
You know, I used to do it with kicking. I want to kick all the time because it makes me feel good. But really, I need to work on my through balls and my crossing and my... But if you, like say, you've got to plan out, I'm obsessed by these envelopes. I do it all the time. I do it financially as well. So if we've got a family trip, we're going Turkey.
Yeah, that's really good.
So every month, I make sure I put enough in, tick the box off, there's money in there, ready for Turkey. And then my boy might be going on a trip somewhere. So I've got to make sure I invest. It's exactly the same thing. Rather than going, leave it, we'll just go out for dinner tonight. But then I'm further away from achieving these goals. So... as long as you're planning it out, as long as you're structuring it, as long as you're working on things that you don't want to work on, which again, a lot of goalies will try and avoid that. You give yourself the chance. All you want to do is say at the end of the day, I've given myself the best opportunity to perform today. And like that's all you're doing on a match day, isn't it? I've had good sleep, I've eaten well, I've had a really good training week, I've ticked all my short-term goals off. If I tick the game off today, I've got closer to my long-term goal.
I love that, working on the things that I'm not good at to achieve my goals.
Yeah.
So again, if I look at my analogy, I know where my strengths are. I know where my weaknesses are. To achieve the business goals that I want to achieve, I have to put people in place in the areas of the business where I'm weak.
Yeah.
But where they're strong.
Yeah.
i.e. surround yourself with stronger people,
yeah.
because collectively you're then better as a team.
Yeah.
It's exactly the same analogy in football. It's exactly the same analogy as an individual, as a goalkeeper wanting to progress and achieve their goals.
Yeah. There's
no way they are going to do that unless they work on those weaknesses.
Mm.
It's a great topic. We've sort of touched on it there. I think the takeaways for me are: write them down, look at your short term, look at your long term. Anybody can do this. It doesn't matter whether you've got a coach or not. You can do it yourself. You can maybe discuss them with, your parents, your guardian, somebody maybe around you, because I think it helps to articulate it. I think it helps to have the conversation, talk, whoever it is, talk them through what your goals are. Mm. You need to review them regularly. Again, whether that's with somebody or whether it's yourself, you need to be looking at them regularly. And I think if all of those things are in place, whether in business or whether in goalkeeping, I think you give yourself the best opportunity you possibly can to achieve what you want to achieve.
Completely.
So hopefully there's some good takeaways there. Thanks for listening. That was the Goalkeeping Podcast. I hope you've enjoyed the content. If you'd like to become a better goalkeeper, then check out developinggoalkeeping.com, where you'll find podcasts, tips, videos, and more.